Good morning. Good morning, friends and colleagues. How's everyone doing? Yay. For those of you I may not have met yet or haven't gotten around to because I've only been here a few months, my name is Andrew Ronan. I'm the Executive Director. Thank you. I'm the Executive Director of the LaGuardia Performing Arts Center. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to LPAC's Little Theater. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. One thing that I learned over the past few months here that we may not know and that we need to know is that LPAC is Western Queens' largest performing arts center. So we have the Little Theater at 200 seats, the main stage is 740 seats, and when we program the LaGuardia Community Greenway, we have 17,000 square feet of programmable space. So as you go around, if you want to express more pride in your college, please let folks know the largest and the best performing arts center is here at LPAC. So gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I met him, one of the first students I met when I came here, and instantly felt like I met everybody. Consummate, wonderful human being. We've worked together on carnivals and greeting elected officials and everything. He's our student body president, embodies LaGuardia, Garrett Morgan Jr. Garrett's a wonderful human being. He is off to Howard University. But fear not, his term ends on July 1, so we have some time for last-minute pardons. And whatever happens with Garrett, I'm pretty sure the next elected official from the great state of New York will be Garrett Morgan Jr.
Sorry, I'm a little bit taller. Just adjust this. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are we doing today? Good. My name is Garrett Morgan Jr., as Andrew introduced. Thank you for the introduction, Andrew. I have had the pleasure of serving as your Student Government Association president for the past year, and I am honored that President Adams has given me the opportunity to start closing sessions for him and allowed me to discuss a little bit about what the student experience has been like this past year. This past year has been an exciting one. Student leaders and organizers set out with clear, important missions. Number one, reviving student government and the role it plays on our campus and across CUNY. Number two, build real community on campus with fun and engaging events. And number three, create traditions for the next student leaders and the next students of LaGuardia. The SGA started our year with lots of renovations, both figuratively and literally. Thanks to the help of administration and the tireless work of our buildings and grounds team, the SGA was able to completely transform our space into a respectable and vibrant space that our student leaders so desperately needed. We also renovated the role SGA has on our campus. For the first time in over a decade, let me say, I am proud to announce that the SGA president now sits on the college president's cabinet. This gives students a real voice on how our college is run. We also petitioned students and then passed a resolution which led to the change of the name of the Office of Campus Life to the newly renamed Office of Student Life, which so desperately needed to change to fit the better needs that the mission of that department. Most importantly, the SGA reestablished relationships, connected and partnered with many of our different departments around our campus, creating vibrant different events. But beyond our work at campus, the SGA increased our diplomatic presence as well. We worked to reestablish new relationships across CUNY with other student governments. And most importantly, we've played an active role in the CUNY University Student Senate, also known as USS, to help create a better CUNY University for all students. A central part of all student leaders this year, the essential part, a mission of all student leaders this year, was our efforts around our campus to build real community through fun and engaging events that brought students together. Combined, student organizations and student life held over 90 plus events this year. But not only are we hosting more events, we are also showing up to events as well. This year, our events averaged well over 120 students every single event. These are numbers that have not been heard or seen since before the pandemic. Let's give a round of applause to that. Through the work of the Student Government Association, we organize signature events such as Stay Energized and Feed Friday, and collaborative events with other departments around our campus. Student Life contributed memorable gatherings, including Paint and Sip, the graduation barbecue, and the graduation cruise, which lit up this campus, and so much more they did. The Black Male Empowerment Cooperative hosted a particularly impactful barbershop series, which created a safe space for students of color to engage in real deep and meaningful conversations that needed to be had. Additionally, our amazing, vibrant student clubs enrich campus life with cultural and professional celebrations. This included the Nepali Student Association Fusion Night, the Bengali Student Association Bengali New Year, the Myanmar Student Association Tingin Water Festival, the Pre-Law Society's Network Nights, Bobab and Beyond's galas, and the very tasty Nutrition and Culinary Management Club's food tours. All of this work culminated this year. For the first time ever, student government led an initiative with Student Life and our athletics department and all departments around student affairs to create a Student Leadership Awards. This awards brought together all the areas from student life and from student affairs, and we were able to truly celebrate our student leaders from all across our college in a gala style. It was very nice. It was in the gym. In addition to these achievements, this year we also thought about the future. For the new student leaders and those who come after them, we intentionally established traditions with specific events and practices designed to endure for generations to come. These traditions included the annual SGA Halloween Party, which is now on its 2-year run, the annual SGA and ECLC's Mother's Day Brunch, which is also now on its 2-year run, the first time ever SGA and Veterans Affairs Memorial Day Barbecue, which was a very great hit, the Student Life Spa Day, which has helped to promote self-care and mental health awareness, and the new and vibrant, engaging new student orientation, which has had well over 800 students every single time. And most importantly, not last but certainly not least, the amazing Student Leadership Awards. Now, as I come to my finish here, I want to say this. LaGuardia's greatest strength is not any of our beautiful buildings or spaces. It's not our top-tier programs or any creative events that we do. LaGuardia's greatest strength is our students. Our students are so resilient. They are determined. They are bold. They are dreamers who refuse to give up. They are leaders. They are always ready to face a challenge, and the best of all, they are just getting started. Our college doesn't just educate, it gives hope and transforms. And I'm confident more than ever that our students will absolutely keep showing not just our city, not just CUNY, not just the state, but the world, that when push comes to shove, you better never count out a student that goes to LaGuardia Community College. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. It has been the greatest honor of my life to have served this student body and been its president. I want our students to keep striving, keep daring to do more, and keep going forward. Thank you. Thank you. Now, before I get off, I kind of have to introduce somebody to the stage. None of this progress we've made this year would have been possible without the vision, support, and genuine care of a truly remarkable leader. Our college president has been a steadfast champion for every student at LaGuardia. He opened the door for me to serve on his cabinet this year and allowed me to play an active role in his administration, which has given students voices at the highest level of decision making. He fights tirelessly for our success, not just while we're here at LaGuardia, but also after our graduation, making sure that every student who comes through our campus has every opportunity to secure a meaningful job and future we deserve. LaGuardia family, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to the stage for closing sessions, President of LaGuardia Community College, President Kenneth Adams.
Garrett Morgan Jr., everybody. Wow. Wow. Garrett will be attending Howard University in September. We're gonna miss, I'm gonna miss you, my friend. I know you don't live too far away, so when you come home to see Mom, stop by, okay? We'll catch up. As usual, I have some terrific assistance here from Sarah and Susan. Susan Weinstein, everybody, ASL interpreter for 39 years, LaGuardia Community College. Sarah Brandenburg's in on deck circle. I got a long speech, so between the two of them, they'll be up and down, signing in ASL. Thank you so much to you both. Thank you again to Garrett, and of course everybody here for coming out. I knew the breakfast would help. I knew if we had coffee and bagels and stuff like that, we'd get some people in this room. You've seen this before. It's kind of my attempt at a end of the semester, really end of the academic year summary. And the material, lest you think I make all this stuff up, because that would be a bad idea, comes from all corners of the college, as kind of Garrett described it. And then I do my best I do a little bit of editing with Gina Taraskevich. She wishes I would do more, but there are too many good things I want to talk about. So there's a lot to present today. Let's get started. We're going to do the framing of this, what we call divisional updates, based on the 2030 strategic plan. You'll remember the pillars of the plan, and the pillars really, each of our divisions is responsible for each of the pillars, and so that's how we'll set up the report. Let's start with, Gina, if you're moving the slides, we'll start with enrollment management, with some information that's coming to us, thanks to VP of Enrollment Management, Ben Roden, and his incredible team. They continue to do really great work that I think you're all familiar with. But just to sort of recap, this spring semester, enrollment of our degree-seeking students rose by 7.3% to over 12,000 students. For 5 semesters in a row, we have had rising enrollment of our degree-seeking students, and we are fast approaching the level of LaGuardia enrollment we had before the pandemic. So congratulations to Ben, to you and your team for that. In the ACE division, the numbers are different. It's interesting. The overall enrollment in ACE is up 1.4%, but it's sort of a tale of different programs. As you can see, workforce training enrollment, our non-degree vocational training programs, way up 17%. Which is fantastic. But enrollment in the TELC, as I reported to you at the beginning of the semester, has been down for reasons we've discussed, and you can imagine, unfortunately. Fewer students are coming to learn English at the TELC. That's important to recognize institutionally, because so many LaGuardia students actually start at LaGuardia by learning English at the TELC or in our ESL programs in the ELA department, and then transition into a degree program. So it is a concern that we're seeing that fall off of enrollment, and I hope it recovers soon. One of our, by the way, again, the way these slides are set up, the sort of title or subtitles that are in bold, that's literally the text from the strategic plan. So those are, under the access pillar of the strategic plan, for which enrollment management as a division is responsible. Increase enrollment, increase number of ACE students that transition into degree programs, improve the student experience. These are all goals that correspond to that pillar. So when it comes to the second one, increase the number of ACE students that transition into degree programs, we didn't make a lot of progress this year. And so we're gonna have to look at this. You can read the slide. We fell off by about 14 students, which when you're talking about almost 28,000 students overall, you're probably saying, why is the president talking about 14 people? Well, we look at every single indicator, and what we want to see is an increasing number of students who transition from ACE into degree programs. When you lose a lot of enrollment in the TELC, there are fewer people that finish TELC programs and can enroll in the college, so that could be one of the forces at work here. But we'll focus again on this in the fall. In terms of improving student experience, the team and enrollment management is doing some really amazing work, and I want to recognize in particular the NEST, because it was a lot of work to put this together. NEST stands for Navigating Enrollment Services Together. We always have clever acronyms. Ben, good job on this one. But the NEST is this proactive, responsive, solution-focused model to support student persistence and to resolve barriers and to drive student success. The team is focusing on outreach to students who are at risk of class cancellations for non-payment or no FAFSA on file, balance resolutions, technical issues, and of course SAP or satisfactory academic progress. I'm going to come to that in a second. They've done a lot of outreach. This is a way of taking the work of the sort of call center work and information center work and concentrating it under the leadership of Veronica Garcia. In any case, 25 call campaigns, over 5,000 students contacted by the NEST, and then this proactive SAP or satisfactory academic progress. This is a whole new approach. This is really important. As folks know, if you do not meet the conditions for satisfactory academic progress, you stand at risk of losing your Pell. You lose your financial aid. And students can get really tripped up over this. It can be a real problem. So it's not enough just to find out when it's too late, when a student's already, needs to file an appeal. You've got to get to students much, much earlier. Beginning this term, we're evaluating students' SAP status earlier. For example, at the end of session 1, not what we used to do, which is at the end of session 2. This gives students July and August, in the case of this semester in the spring, that time to file their appeals prior to the first day of classes in September. Historically, our typical practice had resulted in students not knowing where they would have their aid until after the fall term began. And imagine that confusion. Classes start and you're not sure if you're getting your aid or not. So worse, many students learned that they already had begun the fall classes and then that they lost their financial aid. So we expect that the realignment of the review timeframes will increase the percentage of students who file appeals from, it's about 10% now, to obviously a higher number. We'll get to 15, 20%. We want students to file their appeals in a timely way. And then in addition to adjusting the timeline for SAP statuses to be evaluated, we're streamlining the requirements to file an appeal, which should increase the appeal rate and help more students meet the terms of their appeals academic plan, right? You have to have an approved academic plan to be granted the appeal to restore your aid, and you have to do this, we have to be much more proactive. It has to happen a lot sooner, right? Not when a student's already registered for classes and has lost his or her aid. These changes should increase the rate of successful appeals, which is about 50% right now, raise it to a much higher level, and again, keep students on track and in class. Let's move on to the next pillar of the plan is teaching and learning. Of course, the domain of our provost, Dr. Billy Gastor-Rosado, and academic affairs. One of the leading goals was to ensure that students build the competencies, skills, and dispositions needed for success in education and careers. Again, that is text right out right out of our strategic plan. So work this semester has included providing faculty training in accessibility and inclusive design, refining on a sort of ongoing basis our credit for our CPL, or credit for prior learning processes. That's big thanks to Marcia Oropeza. And in addition, we hired a new ASAP director and an instructional designer, so strengthening the team that supports all this work. To ensure that all students benefit from meaningful academic advisement, student engagement through Navigate showed meaningful growth in the fall semester. Here's a comparison. 84.3% of students had contact with at least one care unit being all the different types of advising. And 82% logged on to EAB, and about 40% booked an appointment themselves. Now, this is the point of EAB Navigate, that students can use the system, book appointments with advisors, and faculty can use the system to communicate with students and track their progress as well. Indeed, faculty participation in the progress reports in this system improved. The fall response rate reached 51.4%, which was up almost 30%. So a big increase in the faculty utilization of the platform. Thank you all for using it. This is fundamental for Melissa Grant and the advising team and people tracking student success. Another priority, of course, for Billy and her team is to increase our transfer rates. We continue to develop our academy models. I would argue that these are just proving to be the most successful kind of scalable ways to improve the student transfer process. We have academies, as I think you all know. We started with the Justice Academy with John Jay. We launched a Business Academy with Baruch 2 years ago. And we've got the STEM Academy with Queens College, which is a work in progress. Actually, Billy and her team of Julianne Salazar and others had done a lot of work on the Queens STEM Academy. But these academy models, you're almost jointly enrolled, right? You enroll in LaGuardia, and you also are being enrolled in Baruch at the same time. You get your 60 credits here, you have a smooth transfer into that accounting program at Baruch, let's say, and you're on your way. And it really smooths out the transfer process, because we can have much more communication between Baruch faculty, in this instance, LaGuardia faculty, program coordination, articulation agreements, the whole alignment, the whole pathway in these academy models is really the strongest we've seen. So we're very excited about that. And in a second, I'm going to announce yet another academy we're working on. Kevin Martin and his team at the Office of Institutional Research and Effectiveness last summer began developing what we call kind of LaGuardia transfer dashboards. These are very specific dashboards that can tell an advisor exactly how LaGuardia graduates perform at a four-year school. So again, if you're doing computer science here and you're thinking of transferring to City Tech or City College, which are two popular choices for our students, and you're not sure which, an advisor can pull up the dashboard and simply look at how LaGuardia students are performing in that same major at those two institutions. What's the average first semester GPA for a computer science graduate at City Tech versus at City College? What's the graduation rate within 6 years? Total 6-year rate, same major, City Tech. The advisor has this tool and can help as a student make a really thoughtful decision about the school to which they transfer. Too often I think students, or I fear, that students will pick a school based on some kind of reputation, convenience. Oh, that's near my grandmother's house, right? That's not you don't pick your four-year school because it's near your grandmother's house. Pick the school where you're going to get the best, you're going to continue your education, have the greatest academic success. So big shout out to folks in OIRA, and Maud worked on this, Mohammed, under Kevin's leadership, because these dashboards are super, super helpful. This challenge of ensuring successful transfer pathways for LaGuardia students with the academies, with the dashboards, it kind of doesn't go away. Yes, we're working on this. It's clearly a fundamental challenge to the strategic plan, and there's more work to do. The overall goal, as you can see in the slide, is to move the needle from 65% to 70%. That would be saying that of our graduates this spring, for example, 70% of graduates would transfer to a four-year school. We can track them best when they stay within CUNY. We do our best to track them in other institutions as well. Lest you think the other 30% are just walking around on the street. No, many are in fact working, right? Because they are graduating from our nursing program or Rad Tech or one of our or Vet Tech, some of our programs that really lead straight away to a good job. So the 70%, and many of them ultimately, we will encourage them to get baccalaureate degrees as well. But if we can get to 70%, as you can see, that's the goal. We still need to refine articulation agreements, the degree maps, and provide more student supports. And as I've said before, strengthen the academies. I will say one of the things that Julianne Salazar, who works on this, organized this year was a transfer fair that I went to. It was in the E Atrium, and it's where we get four-year colleges from all around the state, actually, to come and table and present their programs to LaGuardia students. And it was like this right now, kind of club hours on a Wednesday. 750 students showed up. It was overwhelming. So encouraging. It was really, really great. And again, I mentioned it before, but it's been a lot of work, and I want to commend Billy for her leadership of this Aspen/AASCU partnership with Queens College. A lot of meetings, panels, and sort of joint work between Queens College faculty, LaGuardia faculty to build this academy that started with 3 STEM majors. It's expanded to include some other majors now. And I think it's going to be really successful. So thank you. And thank you, too, to Associate Provost Eric Hoffman, who, with Billy and Julianne, has worked on a lot of this. The next slide shows us a couple things that are in progress we're going to work on over the summer. The Academic Affairs is expanding support for adult learners, including planning tied to the Adult Learner Hub and attention to the needs of students ages 25 and older, who make up a significant share of our student body and are the beneficiaries of the governor's new program we announced last year, NICE Opportunity Reconnect, where there's last dollar financial aid for students 25 to 55 in certain key areas. Our new health studies degree program is on track for approval, so next time I'm up at this podium, I'll be talking about 66 degrees and not 65. And the legal academy. So I mentioned we're working on these academies. We've been working with John Jay College to create a legal academy for students who are interested in pursuing legal careers. Students' legal academy journey would begin here at LaGuardia in one of several majors: political science, history, criminal justice, paralegal, or English. And under the umbrella of the CUNY Justice Academy, which I just mentioned is over at John Jay, students would transition to John Jay's law and society or political science programs, with law school, maybe even CUNY Law School down the way, as the ultimate academy destination for students who are choosing a pathway into the law. So a whole new program, a whole new academy model, again with John Jay, for all these different majors that can really prepare students for successful careers in the law. We're nearing completion of the dual admission agreements and other aspects of the Legal Academy partnership with John Jay. The Academy will also provide students with joint support and resources such as advising, internships, participation in mock or moot court exercises, opportunities for networking with legal professionals, an introduction to LSAT, prep courses, and so on. And it's going to launch this fall. Finally, not on this slide, but I want to thank Kevin and his team, a group of people we've put together who are carrying on the work we launched in the fall, something I call New Front Door, which is really a way to identify best practices, the milestones, if you will, that if students achieve them in their first semester as new students, they are likely to succeed all the way to graduation. So we know what these are. Garrett mentioned new student orientation, first-year seminar. It's a set of things that we see over and over again, many of this organized and led by Ellen Quish, that if we get students to complete these milestones in their first semester, or if you stretch it out to the first year, all the data shows much, much improved success for students. So we started this with a big kind of town hall meeting in the fall. Kevin has taken on the initiative, and I just want to thank the working group that met recently to continue this work. They'll do work over the summer and into the fall. Denise Davis-Cooper, Melissa Grant, Sunil Gupta, Eric Hoffman, Christina Natali, Ellen Quish herself, of course, Julianne Salazar, Ben, Alexis, and Billy. And that's kind of a working group. We're reopening all this up to others who participated in the fall. And there's a fancy new name for it, Kevin, which I can't recall, but I still call it New Front Door. The point is assuring LaGuardia students have a strong start. Strong start just leads to success, super clear. Moving on to the next pillar of the plan, student support, the domain of the Division of Student Affairs, led by Alexis McLean, Dean Harry Mars, and their terrific team. Increase students' awareness and utilization of support services. Garrett mentioned a lot of this, and so thank you for helping me with that. But one thing sort of behind the scenes that's been super important is EdSites. So this is a platform that the team in Student Affairs use to strengthen student engagement, increase student awareness and utilization of campus resources. We have a lot going on, and it can be overwhelming. It can be hard for students to know what's available. There's so much, which is great, right? But this platform really helps them inform them about all these opportunities and all the support. It enables more timely interventions for students in need. And student response and engagement data have informed the team's outreach strategies and improved coordination of support services across the Student Affairs Division and in the college. An enhanced focus on supporting students with disabilities through the Delta Alpha Pi outreach and programming has expanded opportunities for engagement, recognition, and community building among students. Many of us were in the atrium actually just a couple of weeks ago for the induction ceremony. Second year in a row, Alexis has brought back the induction ceremony to the Honor Society for Students with Disabilities, and their families were there. It was a huge event. We had a lot of special guests. Jumani Williams, public advocate, was there. It was a really wonderful event. So that work goes on too, super important. Increased participation in clubs, athletics, student government, and other extracurricular activities. Again, Garrett covered a lot of this, and I thank him for that. I will simply say, I think it's really great we added another sport. We added women's volleyball as an NJCAA, that's our league. We added that sport. Student Affairs began implementing targeted strategies to increase participation in clubs and organizations. And as you can see in the slide, in 1 year, we jumped from 37 clubs to 43. And participation in the SGA elections, maybe that's because Garrett was campaigning, it drove the numbers up here, but went from 6 to 7.4%. So lots of really good stuff happening with clubs, and as we like to say, making LaGuardia sticky. Activities, events, and stuff so that students stick around and build the community here that we want to present to them. These efforts support the strategic plan's focus on student engagement, leadership development, community building, while ongoing assessment of participation and retention trends inform continuous improvement. So Garrett didn't mention it, but we should announce that his term does end, I guess, on midnight, June 30th, because on July 1st, we have a new SGA president who was recently elected, Shahana Mirza. And I met Shahana yesterday, so we're excited about her joining the cabinet and being part of this as well. Improving the student experience, you can imagine there are a lot more things going on here than I can mention, even Garrett could mention. But one thing that stands out, and we talked about earlier this year, and now it's up and running, and this is particularly important, is that we established the Office for Immigrant Student Empowerment. So this is the first office of its kind at any CUNY community college. It's the only office of any CUNY school in Queens. Again, one dedicated specifically to we'll say immigrant students. And this is different from Zelma Kashwar on our international students. That's about 1,507 students who are on F1 visas. They need very special attention and services from Zalma and her team. No, when we talk more broadly about a third of our student body being foreign-born, we have a lot of undocumented students, we have a lot of students in mixed-status households, we have students who have immigration issues, let's just say, that require extra attention and support. And so this office was set up by Alexis and her team, and it's up and running now. And we announced it earlier this year, and it's actually happening, which is great. And I should say, it's led by Denise Vivar, who came to us. She had done this work at John Jay for a number of years, left that post for the opportunity to be the director of the office here, kind of a startup, if you will. So we're delighted that Denise has joined us. Another really fun and important thing that we did this spring was the transformation of the old Barnes & Noble College bookstore, the M Building basement, into a student lounge, which is really designed to foster community and engagement, collaboration, and just be a fun place. There's ping pong in there and other fun stuff coming. Beautiful mural on the back wall. I hope you all have a chance to see it, by one of our fine arts students. It was a result of a contest that Manny organized. And so we're very pleased about that. It's not on the slide, but I always like to give a shout out to Dr. Rhonda Mouton and LaGuardia Cares. And I'll just say this, that we're fast approaching a level of support that's really special. We're getting, thanks to really Jay and the foundation and the Petrie Foundation, Rhonda is about at $1 million of emergency aid to students per year. This is a huge increase in the resources available, which are for things like food insecurity, our Airbnb, housing support for students who are homeless, and then the emergency funding students need for an unpaid medical bill, for transportation, for a Con Ed bill. I mean, I don't think there's any other CARES type organization in CUNY where the staff running it have access to $1 million in support. that is given out in relatively small amounts to thousands and thousands of students. So that's a huge increase in what they're doing. And I really just want to shout out to Rhonda and her team because it's fantastic. We're going to come back to that in a second. You know, it's the old takes a village thing, right? Because, you know, Rhonda would be, if she were up here, she'd be saying, well, I'm, you know, grateful to the foundation and the financial support that lets that happen. So anyway, everybody contributes to that for sure. Student affairs, you know, coming up, it's, we are redesigning the new student orientation, a visit project in cooperation with academic affairs, because department chairs, program directors, and faculty are key to orientation. And it's tricky because we need to do it in the summer and we can't do it before people are back. So there's some logistics we're working on, but we want to turn it into a more flexible, accessible, student-centered experience. And the activities are going to be based on fields of interest. So, you know, health sciences students will come in one day, or, you know, STEM students or liberal arts students, and there'll be much more sort of robust programming organized around fields of interest. So this is coming up. We're expanding our Horizons program. Folks may remember Horizons. We launched it last year. This is our program for student parents that it's really kind of fun. It involves now kindergartners, first graders, and third graders. These youngsters take swimming lessons in the pool and then have enrichment activities and cooking and all sorts of other academic things that they do all day long while their parents can attend class, and it's free for the parents. So Horizons, and we're the only, Horizons is a national program. We're the only site in CUNY. Not a surprise, I'm sure, but here we're trying to lead in providing services to student parents. This is our second year, as I mentioned, and almost all of the students this year, with the students who came last year graduate, they go up to the next level. So our kindergartners are now first graders, which opens us up for kindergartners. Everybody keeps moving up. Eventually, we'll have like all the way, I think, up to 8th grade. So more and more young people coming to the college in the summer for that. The program includes academics, swimming, arts, and social emotional learning opportunities. It's really, really fun. And there's a culminating event in August we all go to. Coming up also another sport this fall. We add a sport every year. We'll be adding men's volleyball as, again, an NGCAA sport. We had women's volleyball. They did great. Men's volleyball is now the most popular sport in the CUNY system, among community college students anyway. Very, very, very popular sport. So we're going to get a men's volleyball team going this fall. All of us are getting excited about the World Cup now that it's June. My goodness, we got World Cup fever coming on. So just want to remind you that our tryouts were held for our men's soccer team last week. 55 students showed up for tryouts, which is great. We have a very, very strong team. We're preparing for the fall. I was with the coach yesterday and our athletic directors, and we actually met one of our student athletes who is graduating and was a star of the soccer team this year and a 4.0 student on his way to Baruch. Met him in my office yesterday, incredible young man named Anthony. Anyway, just please note that our first game is away, August 27th, out in Manhattan Beach. Yeah, you guessed it, Kingsborough. Oh, yeah. Then we play up in the Bronx at my alma mater, Bronx Community College, on beautiful Ohio Field. They actually have a very nice field there. And then our home opener is mid-September, right after classes start. 15th of September at our home field, which of course is on Randall's Island, which is easily accessible by the F and the Q and the bus. So, see you there. Also, with respect to athletics, you know we have to do a pool renovation project. This is something that is taking up a lot of Alexis's time. The pool is so heavily utilized by students, faculty, staff, and members of the community who pay to swim. You notice that, right? And youth groups and everybody else. And we have to shut it down to do major renovations of the pool. This is a logistical nightmare. It's a real problem. And I think most of you know, because you're familiar with the pool has 187,000 gallons of water in it. It's kept at a balmy 72, 73 degrees, right, you're here? And to save money, we have to drain the pool, to reline it, to tile it, to clear out the drain and things like that. So she here has a volunteer assignment, a project coming up, and basically we're gonna use a cup like this, and we need volunteers to help take out one cup at a time the 187,000 gallons of water in the pool. Like one cup at a time, right? You hear that should work. Yeah, that should work. I know, we talked about it. Quite a project. This is another thing, like this to me is a big highlight. and it's the last highlight of this section of Student Affairs. And VP McLean has worked on this one for many months with help from Maria Cook and others. But it's fantastic. We are finally going to be able to provide free evening meals. So free meals to evening students. Yeah. Yeah, applause line. So we have a partnership with this amazing organization called Rethink Food. And they are providing this for us. They have a donor that is very generously kind of backstopping the program or paying for it. So in just a couple weeks, on June 21st, again through Dr. Mouton and LaGuardia Cares, that's how we're going to distribute the meals, we're going to be providing free boxed dinners Monday through Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m. We'll have 100 meals per week to start. These are really delicious, entirely halal boxed dinners. I've had the chicken biryani. It's amazing. It's really good quality food. It's really nutritious. As I say, it's all halal. It comes in boxes, and LaGuardia Cares will have them, so students here coming for night classes won't have to have potato chips and a Diet Coke, right, or a bottle of water. They'll have a really nutritious meal for free. We'll start with 100. If it goes well, we'll do everything we can to get a lot more. So congratulations, Alexis. This is awesome. And I know some of you, Rethink has been providing meals to us through LaGuardia Cares on the Greenway events, so some of you may have seen their food. It is nutritious, as I said. They're vegetarian and vegan options as well, and we really look forward to starting this in a couple of weeks. Next up in the strategic plan was our work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We do still say those words at LaGuardia, I think, you should know. This work is really led by Professors Milena Cuellar and now Dr. Ellen Quish, who took over the spot in this team that Reem Jafar played for many years, in developing a program of what we call shared equity leadership. And so they're doing that work while Nayeli and I and others are running a search. Actually, Milena is the chair of the committee, so she's doing a lot of the work, for a new director of equity and engagement. We have resumes coming in now. That is up and posted, and we'll be doing those interviews over the summer. So we should have someone in place in this role. So there's someone full-time doing the work and supporting everybody else and all of our various cultural and affinity groups by the fall. And you know the structure. This person reports to me. We've actually set up a new office in my office on the 5th floor of the E building because this is such a critical senior leadership position. We also are going to continue this fall our pronoun inclusivity training, and this it's been incorporated into our HR onboarding process, the pronoun inclusivity training. So all new hires receive the training, and they receive kind of an online version of it, if you will. But during this fall semester, 6 LaGuardia faculty, led by Professors Sarda Rausch and Chelsea Del Rio, who are the forces behind the training, those 6 faculty members are going to be doing the in-person, more in-depth training to groups of staff and groups of faculty. So very good. We're really excited to continue that work. Next pillar is career success, led by VP Sunil Gupta and his team in the ACE division. The strategic planning objective here was increasing students' early utilization of career services. I know Jessica Perez is here in the audience. I saw her a moment ago. And she's got an amazing thing to report here. First, this career advising appointments increased by 74% year over year, which is fantastic. That's more and more students going to career services to talk about career planning, talk about their majors. You know, the tradition in this country is that almost very few college students ever go to career services, and those that do go about a week before graduation when they go, oh, I need a resume, what am I going to do with my life? And so the whole point is you've got to move these discussions to the beginning of the student experience, not the end. And Jessica and her team are having a great success at doing that. She is also she updated this figure yesterday. Remember I told you I get this information from everybody else. I'm just the spokesperson here. So we're almost at 600 internships for this academic year. 597 sounds like 600 to me. And this is a big increase from where we were last year. Last year we had last year we had something like, whatever 74% less would be, because the increase was 74%. It's not on the slide. 338. We went from 338 to almost 600 in 1 year. It's an amazing amount of work. And so congratulations to the Career Services team. This is really key for CUNY Beyond and really key for our strategic plan, work-based learning, internships, and the like. Jessica indicated that this is basically because of increased outreach and partnerships with faculty, and this is absolutely true. More and more faculty are designing internships that are really key to their majors, work-based learning, finding ways to make it credit eligible, build it into the degree. That's really important, by the way, for our international students. They cannot do paid internships unless it's required for their degree. And so lots of faculty are creating these new opportunities and coordinating with Jessica and now Kirk to make sure students take advantage of them. All in all, lots going on. I'm sorry, the last point here. Many of you have helped out with our new social capital training called Climb Together. We started this last year with an organization that brought it to LaGuardia, again, on somebody else's grant from Walmart. And Climb Together training has now reached almost, 365 students. This is training in social capital, in things like describing what you want to do, answering open-ended questions, talking about yourself, conversations that could be, for example, with a recruiter or an HR professional in a job situation. It's really great, and it uses a chatbot called Goldie, which students use as well, so they can practice these skills with a chatbot. And thanks to everybody who's helped out with that. We've had dozens of staff and faculty receive the training, sort of a train-the-trainer model, and now they deliver the social capital training to students directly. Next up, some things happening over the summer. We're preparing to roll out Workforce Pell. I think I've announced this before, but this is a phenomenal change, actually, in the federal sort of Pell law, which means that for the first time ever, Pell funding, Pell financial aid, will be available for low-income students in a non-degree workforce training program. So think federal financial aid, like a portion of your Pell grant, to do plumbing or electrical, or medical assisting, or IT and tech support, or any number of our ACE programs. Think financial aid for ACE programs from the federal government. It's remarkable. It's also very complicated. So Sunil Gupta and his team are working on teeing up qualifying programs. You just can't do this for every program. Each of the qualifying programs has to connect to a degree. So going back to our strategic plan, you can see how the programs for which students can draw down Pell will be programs that line up with a LaGuardia Associate's degree. Again, creating a pathway for adult learners, for veterans, for the formerly incarcerated, for people who are need LaGuardia as a second chance, right? Maybe to pivot, do something new in their lives. Start out and work in one of these Pell eligible programs, get the financial aid, transition into a degree, and then you use your regular Pell for your degree. So this is a really special opportunity that LaGuardia, again, is in a leadership position on. I've spent a lot of time in Washington lobbying for this, actually. It's remarkable that it happened. It's one of the, in my view, kind of one of the most important breakthroughs, and otherwise, there's a lot of stuff going on in Washington with respect to public higher education. This detail, if we can take advantage of it, is very, very powerful for our students. To put it in place, Sunil secured a FIPSI grant. FIPSI is it's part of the U.S. Education Department's funding for special initiatives. We got the only one in New York State. It's $2 million, and it's to put a team together. It's amazing. To put a team together to make the Pell program work, because as I say, the technicalities make your head spin. So the FIPSI grant will enable us to hire the technical people to work in financial aid. I see Gail Sharish is here, others here from financial aid. It's super complicated, but we'll figure it out and we'll put it in place. And Queens residents will have access to this federal funding for the first time ever. We run SYP, Summer Youth Employment Program, for 30 years here at LaGuardia. This summer, according to data I got yesterday, 3,445 young people. That's a lot of pizza. That's a lot of pizza. We'll be here this summer. This SYP is 16. It's young people in high school and then some young adults who are not in high school, giving them internships and work experience. And that is one of our biggest ACE programs. Staff behind that, Claudia Baldonado, they work all year round, and then they have this very, very big program. But this is a big increase in participation from last year, so thank you to the team for that. And finally, something new, which this is first ever. What did he say? Well, he announced a couple new things. This is a new thing, because we just signed this deal yesterday. Billy and I have thought for a long time that we need to make AI literacy like a requirement, And we probably can't make it a requirement so easily, but we want to make it certainly readily available. And so we have set up an arrangement with Pursuit. Pursuit is a really excellent technical training, not-for-profit organization around the corner on Austell Place, whose director is a guy named Nick Simmons. And what we're going to do this summer is offer free AI fluency training for up to 100 people. In fact, I think if we have more takers, we could probably get to 125. It's sort of a logistical issue. It's a 42-hour course in AI basics taught by some really great instructors. We'll teach it here on campus. It's going to be in the evenings, and the 42 hours is probably going to be 2 evenings a week for X number of weeks. So it's for people who work, for students who have summer jobs or taking. And Billy's priority is that we open up those 100 slots for students, but we also want to open up for faculty and staff. So we'll start by marketing it to students. I mean, today. I'm announcing it now. And then we'll make this AI literacy training, and if it works, we'll try to expand it in the fall for everybody. I really believe we need to make this available. Again, it's a 42-hour basic course, totally free. It's similar training. This organization is doing this for New York City public school teachers. They're doing this for unions. They're doing it for other groups. That's why we're in the evening slot, because we asked for evenings for our community. But it's 42 hours. It's great instruction. We've all reviewed the curriculum. There is, and John Tolan brought this up in Cabinet 2 weeks ago, and they have adjusted the curriculum, so they're a very big component on the ethical, responsible use of AI for students. This is not a course where students go to learn how to do yet more hacks and more tricks, right? No, we don't want that. But we can't run from AI, right? We got to run to it. We have to embrace it, make it available, make this training available, and make it available for everybody, students, faculty, and staff, right? So that's coming up starting in July, and we'll have everything on the website. You'll see it on the screens. We'll make announcements, and we'll recruit our first group of students for that training. Next up, some budget news. Next up, some communications and external affair news. Let's go to, now I have to find, Gina, what happened to my communications notes. We've been doing, this is exciting. We've been doing a lot in the area of digital advertising. And often people say to me, I don't see ads for LaGuardia on the subway. No, we don't do that. It's really expensive and not very effective. We do a lot of stuff I don't see, because it's digital and it's targeted at prospective students. So in the fall, we'll just say the fall semester, digital advertising yielded over 1.1 million impressions and 30,000 clicks from, not us in this room, but from prospective students. 72 spots on La Mega. Okay, that's radio. Amor, La Música. We do some radio spots. 3 million impressions this spring. Website, strong year-over-year growth across all of the metrics. More visitors, better engagement. And this indicates that people aren't just arriving at the website, but they're clicking through. We look at click-throughs. We see how much time they're spending with our content. Page views increased by over 560,000, big 11% increase. Means users are viewing more pages overall, signaling increased interest in the site's content. Active users grew by nearly 230,000, which is almost a 20% increase. Largest growth rate among all of these metrics, significant expansion in our audience size. More people are discovering and using the website, which is a strong indicator of successful outreach and acquisition efforts. And also engagement time, right? The time people spend on the site and in social media is rising. It rose by about a minute, 58 seconds, which was a 14.6% improvement. I don't calculate all this stuff. I would not know how to do this, but I love reading these statistics. Visitors are staying longer and interacting more deeply with our LaGuardia content. This suggests the site is becoming more relevant, useful, and/or easier to navigate. All right, our social media pages have shared content for 22 weeks in a row, our longest streak, showcasing a variety of content tailored to each channel's audience. That's a screenshot of a lot of our social media. We've got English language learning, immigrant stories, second chance students, non-traditional pathways, all of these student stories, which are fantastic and which I thought, I'd love to see myself, but to see them, you've got to go to our social media. Positive engagement on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Over the past year, the team has focused on student-to-student engagement by featuring students talking about scholarships, internships, career opportunities to their peers in their own voices. So we have students talk to other prospective students. They tell the story best. A milestone achieved this year is reaching 15,000 followers on Instagram, which puts us in the lead over all CUNY community colleges. So say that again. Thank you, Elizabeth, reminding us to cheer for the fact that our Instagram feed now is the most watched or followed in the CUNYverse. On average, go ahead. Crazy. 53% of our reels are being seen by non-followers, which is what you want, because those are people who don't know us. And they're discovering the college via relatable, fun content. Check it out for yourselves. And lots of community college highlights. On TikTok, promotions for career resources events, I think that's coming from Jessica Paris and her team in career services, are making record-breaking engagement. And our Career Expo promotion alone generated 57,000 views and almost 4,000 likes and 1,300 shares. What's going on? What's coming up next? Well, here we go. Garrett mentioned it. He actually spoke to me about his remarks yesterday, and he said, President Adams, is it okay if I use that dare to do more phrase? And I'm like, I'm really tired of that. But you're my friend, and you were duly elected as president, so you're Mr. President, you can say whatever you want. But seriously, dare to do more has been around a long time. It is a good expression in many ways, but a bunch of us are tired of it. And we think, as a community, we could come up with some new ideas for taglines, slogans, things to put on that coffee mug or T-shirt, and the website too. So, Communications and External Affairs is going to start like next week, a summer-long program where we're going to ask everybody just to come up with ideas. And it's not going to be a big meeting. There'll be no MBJ donuts or anything like that. But there'll be a part of the website where you go, and when you wake up in the middle of the night, you say, wait, I got an idea for a slogan. And you just put your little slogan in there. And we're going to collect kind of nominations, right? Suggestions for slogans from everybody, students, faculty, staff, all summer long. And then figure out a way to put them in a magic, Harry Potter magic sorting hat, and pull one out. Or maybe two or three, because I don't think we just need one. And frankly, if Dare to Do More remains sort of the choice of the community, we'll stick with it. But I think it's about time we consider some. It's been around since 2012, and it was done by a marketing firm hired at the time by the college. Some of you may recall. I mean, that's 14 years ago. That's a lot of daring for a long time. I'm ready for something new. So let's see what we can come up with. Alumni Association, we're still looking for a leader of that. Had a failed search, but we'll find somebody. It's okay. And even without a leader, 300 new and returning members have gotten active in the Alumni Association. Manny's been organizing some events, and a lot of good stuff is happening, newsletters, things like that. So more for the Alumni Association in the fall. We've got a merch cart. We closed the college store for lots of good reasons. Barnes & Noble was losing money because faculty did so much OER work, as we should, that our faculty put Barnes & Noble out of business because they couldn't sell textbooks. Everything went to OER. It's a great story. I love that story. But when we closed the bookstore, we lost a spot where you could buy swag, like a sweatshirt or a hoodie or a cap. So Manny and his team have brought back a merchandise cart, which I saw the other day, beautifully decorated by folks in our sign shop. And someone's going to have to push this cart around. The same person that's going to empty the pool with this cup of water. We need volunteers to push around the merch cart. And you'll see all the swag on the cart. And then there'll be some laptops or tablets. And you get into CUNY Buy or the system there and order them. But it's a way for people to see the stuff, the samples, so you can try it before you buy it. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to get that out there in the fall. We'll have it at Greenway events and things like that. What's next? This is an important slide. Shahir's been waiting for this one. He wants to make sure I get it right. And this one's no joke, like the pool. We've had a good year financially, our best year in many, many years. And so what this slide will indicate to you is that our overall revenue, close to $170 million, $168,882. Students are paying their tuition in a timely way. We are getting all the government support we expect. And generally speaking, our revenues are strong. And we continue to be mindful about our expenses. And super important that we're very, very careful and that we're thoughtful stewards of the resources that we get. At the end of the day, we anticipate by the end of this month, June 30th, we will have spent about $163 million, which will produce a surplus of about $5 million. It wasn't long ago when I stood before you at this podium and I talked about the deficit, and then again I talked about a deficit, and again and you probably heard John was real tired of, here goes President Adams talking about that damn deficit again. So this is the first time I got to say we're producing a surplus, and so that is amazing, and that is kind of where we want to be. And I'm going to reflect on this in a minute, but this is going to help us rebuild our reserves. Because when we were in tough financial times, when we lost a third of our students during the pandemic, and our revenue sank like a stone, to the bottom of Newtown Creek, we had to dig into our reserves, and we spent money out of our reserves. And we have to have a rainy day fund. I'll mention why in a minute. So this surplus is going to go into our reserves and rebuild our reserves, and I just think Shahir and I believe that is the prudent and fiscally responsible thing to do. So there you go. What's the next slide going to tell us? All sorts of interesting stuff that the team has been doing. I do want to note the arrival of our new director of public safety, Anthony Rosario. Many years, over 20 years of public safety leadership in CUNY, first something like 10 years at Hunter, and then another 10, 12 years at Baruch. And I point that out because those campuses from a public safety standpoint are similar to us. They're not open campuses, they're buildings, they're tall buildings with elevators from a fire safety standpoint. And they are, vertical, as opposed to a Queens or a Brooklyn or a BCC. So the security issues are much different. So Anthony has tremendous, and I would argue very relevant experience. The fact that he lives in Queens, that was a nice thing too. But I hope you'll say hi to Anthony, and I think you'll find that we have some terrific new leadership there. Shahir and his team are certainly important to note. I do want to thank them again for the work that took to relocate the LaGuardia and Wagner archives. You have to go over, if you haven't, please go visit 7 South, we call it, the 7th floor of the C building, south side of the building. The new archives are phenomenal, and it's like walking into a museum. There's open space, gallery space, and we're doing a lot of events for students over there, and it's really, really nice. So thanks to the team for that. And the campus is almost entirely, except for right here, LED equipped. We've really converted with a grant that we had all of our lighting to LED. It was super helpful, obviously, to do the right thing for the environment and to save money, save energy. So lots of great work being done by Shahir and his team. All right, now, because my notes were out of order, I'm going to pause. What's the next slide say? I know I know most of this stuff without my notes, but every now and again. Yes, so summer projects for Shahir and his team, administration and finance. I was here last night around 10 o'clock, and I saw all the books are out of the stacks of the first floor of the library. It happened like that. So you walk over there now, the library doesn't look like the library because the first floor renovation is about to begin. The tutoring annex, a Billy Priority project, will be completed this summer, expanding our facilities for tutoring. And the nest I mentioned, turnstiles are coming. We've talked about that before in the fall. And there'll be a number of classrooms that are going to be upgraded over the summer as well. So lots of work in store for the summer. You know the Hall of Flags? Yeah, of course you do. So twice this year, 2 different students have come up to me, in the hallway or in the atrium or something. President Adams, I'm from Mauritania. That's great. All right, nice to meet you. What's your major? No, President Adams, you don't have my country's flag in the Hall of Flags. Now, I was taken aback by this, and it happened twice. Another student, random thing, said, President Adams, how are you? I'm fine, how are you doing? Hot out. There's no flag from Mauritania, and that's my country in the Hall of Flags. So, we have a project this summer to install, you guessed it, the Mauritanian flag. It's about time. It's about time. Now, this is why it's complicated. The Hall of Flags is alphabetical, right? So Mauritania, M is kind of middle of the alphabet. Right between Malta and Mexico. It's going to be Malta, Mauritania, Mexico. The flags are 3 feet apart. So Malta can stay. Mauritania goes in the Mexico spot, and you guessed it, all the other flags have to be moved all the way around to make that spot. But we're going to do it. And we might even paint the ceiling and do a little cleanup and send about 200 nations to the dry cleaners, because it's probably time we did that too. A lot of fun summer project. What's next in the slideshow? Oh yeah, fundraising. Y'all know I like to talk about this. From Jay and his team, Tomorrow 2.0. That's our big campaign, biggest we've done ever. We're trying to raise $25 million by the end of the month. Anybody want to help? Seriously, we have an anonymous donor who gave us a pledge of $10 million last year on the condition that we raise $15 million by June 30th, 2026. Okay, so that's like 26 days from now. And we are within $1 million. So we've got like 14 million and change, and we're closing in with a lot of irons in the fire. Right, Jay? Jay's sitting right. Aren't you supposed to be upstairs raising money? We're closing in on the... But this is your material. We're closing in. We're closing in. And we'll see what happens. But we hope we can come up with that last little bit, hit the finish line. And that will turn into, I mentioned before the amount of money that's being able to go to LaGuardia Cares, but it's much more than that. It raises the entire funding availability for scholarships, for undocumented students, for emergency aid, for last dollar financial aid, and stipends for internships. I mean, it just raises it and changes the whole operation of the foundation should we achieve this. And we're getting very, very close. Big thanks to everybody, especially 300 donors who might watch this on video later. I want to thank you all, who have gotten us so far, on this campaign, to this point. Also important to single out a couple members of our late members of our LaGuardia community who thought of LaGuardia, in terms of their estate planning and thinking about LaGuardia in their wills. Some of you will remember Dr. Lenore Beakey from the English department. I know folks from English know Lenore very well. She passed away in January. But since then, we received word that her main that LaGuardia is her main beneficiary. Like she left her estate, Lenore, to LaGuardia. And so Jay's been in touch with her lawyers and the people managing the estate. And this is truly incredible. We've received, as her main beneficiary, we are going to receive more than $1.6 million from her estate. And in fact, most of this has already been put into our account, transferred to us, in an endowed fund to benefit students and initiatives in, you guessed it, the English department. Which was according to her wishes. So a big thank you, of course, to Lenore for thinking of LaGuardia that way and making those plans. And then her lawyers and people managing her estate reached out to us, and this has just happened in the last couple of months. Many of us also remember Dr. Jane Schulman, and I think of Jane fondly because I knew her quite well, even though I was working on another CUNY campus. She was a legendary leader of our ACE division. Jane passed away, sadly, last October. And her family is setting up an endowment fund for ACE scholarships, which is really, really lovely of them to do. And Sunil is coordinating with that with them. But by the way, anyone is free to make contributions to a fund like that and to add to the resources for our ACE students. Finally, I want to emphasize that the foundation and its board are dedicated. This is an important fact. We have a board meeting tomorrow, actually. The board is very aware of all of the issues, especially in today's climate, that can impact our students. And that's why they're raising more money. That's why they're super flexible and supportive when we want to allocate funds to certain initiatives that will help our students, like the Office of Immigrant Student Empowerment. A lot of that work was funded by one of our donors. And so that's Charles Boyce is our longtime chair of the board from Boyce Technologies. And he and the team, the board members, are keenly aware of these broader issues and are constantly saying, how can we help? How can we help? How can we help? And so Jay and I are really grateful to them for that. Let's try to wrap this up, Gina. What's coming up? From the grants office, another great spring sort of session. Laura's here with us. This is a quick list of grants that the team has brought in. I should also note, as I did earlier, the FIPSI grant, the $2 million federal grant that Lauren and her team worked on with Sunil Gupta. Over in the C building on the 5th and 6th floors, a lot of work is going on. Those of you who work or teach on the 4th floor know this because it's a little noisy. Apologize for that. It is some major construction. But all the architectural work is complete. We removed about 130,000 square feet of wood flooring from 1914, and we sent it to be reclaimed, to be recycled. We're bringing some of it back for the project. That's alone the whole story that, led by Kate Ragoff, who's the leader of this project. So all the demolition is done. The site prep is complete. And right now we're doing this thing called floor leveling. I don't know how many of you know this, but the floors in the C building were built pitched on purpose, because as the world's largest bakery, at the end of the workday, the workers would take hoses and wash down the floors, and with all the flour and the sugar and the other stuff from those cookies, and it would wash to scuppers in the building's perimeter and drop down to the street and go right into Newtown Creek. Don't eat those cookies. And so we've had to level the floors. This is sort of tricky because the middle of the floor, if the middle floor is like this, where the elevators are, is 6 inches lower on both sides, right? Think of it as a... And so I'll just say, yeah, if you want to see an interesting, pre-construction exercise, the floor leveling is done with a very thin concrete that's kind of watery, and layers and layers and layers. Water seeks its own level. I mean, John Tolan will tell you that, physicist. And so with this thin concrete, we're leveling the floors. This will enable us to start construction in September. Let's look at the slide for a second, Gina, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So this is one semester retention. And the black line is the national community college average, and the red line is your favorite community college in Long Island City. And it looks like, if you were our data from fall 2025, right? So that would be students who came back in the spring semester, has risen to this historic level of 86%, and for the first time, as you can see, above the national average. That's like saying 86 out of 100 students came back. That doesn't happen. This is very, very special. Now, this is not the official CUNY data because it doesn't have spring 2. It just has spring 1, but the number's not going to go down. I mean, maybe it could go up a little bit, spring 2, but this is really, really powerful. And it speaks to persistence and suggests ultimately greater level of student success. And everybody should feel, this is the part where I say really it takes a village, everybody contributes to this. Everybody contributes to this. So more on this when we kind of reconvene in the fall, and we'll have more complete data, but it's a very powerful indicator of student success, and it's very exciting to share it with you. So how about a collective round of applause for everybody? Because this is a big deal. Yeah. What we're also seeing is a really big reduction in what we call the racial or ethnic performance gap. Right? I've said many times, it's not enough to have rising indicators of student success for only one type of student, right? So what we want to make sure is that, for example, the rising tide is lifting all the boats and everybody's doing better. And when you see this very sort of fall 24 to fall 25, the gap has been if you have at the same time this jump to 86% of retention and a reduction down to 2% of the racial performance gap, right? That's like saying, compared to the general population, unrepresented minority students, right, are only 2% behind when they used to be 6.5% or even 15% behind, right? That's what this is tracking, the racial or ethnic performance gap. We want everybody to do well. So that 2%, we want that to disappear next time I show you this slide, that everybody's graduating, everybody's succeeding at the same rate. This is not so encouraging. This is part-time students. So where we still have a really serious gap and a really serious challenge is the success, the retention in this case, of students who go part-time. And I've said this before, I mean, our graduation rate for part-time students is probably 16, 17%, right? Like half the rate. And you see this, and you see it in the challenge of part-time students staying, being retained. So what does the data tell you? Like this is the gap between the general population of full-time students and the part-timers. So part-timers, the distance was 36%, and it reduced a little bit to 34%. But that still means that the rate of retention for part-time students is 34% behind the rate for full-time students. So this is, something to think about, something we've got to work on. Gina, thanks. Let's do the next one. Okay, enrollment cliff. All right, remember when I told you I would come back to this question of putting our nuts in the tree, of saving money, of rebuilding our reserves? This slide is why. This slide is why. This graph is showing you New York City Public School high school seniors. You can see it's going down. That last year is 2030, and the number there is about 13,000, down from 17,000, which is 2000. It's if you go back, You know, they used to say there's 1.1 million students in New York City public schools. Not today. Not today. There are demographic changes. You know, the population of high school students, of all students, is shrinking. Ben and I do a simple exercise. Like, we started the semester, we call over, get on the website and board. How many kindergartners are in New York City public schools today? Okay? Let's assume they all going to graduate. They're not all going to make it, but, you know, there'll be some replacements. 13 years hence, what's that number? That's our market, right? Another way to look at it is, how many graduates will there be? You know, our graduation's June 18th. How many graduates from New York City public high schools this year? Because that's our pool for the fall. In fact, they're already enrolling. So this is what's called the enrollment cliff. You've heard about it. There have been some articles about it. There is just very simply, very plainly, a significant decline in the number of New York City students in high schools. And this is not compensated for by charter schools or parochial or other schools. This is the core number, because those numbers are relatively small. And so we have to prepare for this. And, you know, you go back to our strategic plan, we really are trying to become much more attractive to adults, as I mentioned, and we're doing that. We're trying to build ACE programs that feed into degree programs, so there's another entry into a college education. And that also is very attractive to working adults, for example. And we'll always want to be attractive to high school students for obvious reasons. But mindful of this, if you think about the $5 million surplus we are creating this year, that's why we're putting that in the bank. Because we need to be prepared, because what's really important is if we do, in the next few years, experience declining enrollment, and that leads to a loss in revenue, I don't want that to affect any of our students, right? All of these services, everything we're doing that's driving increased retention, which will ultimately drive graduation and student success, everything we're doing, we have to sustain. I don't want to stand here before you and ever say we're pulling back from LaGuardia Cares. We're pulling back from advising or student support or free meals, free halal meals at night. No. I want more and more and more for our students. But we have to have a firm financial foundation, and we have to rebuild our reserves to prepare for the enrollment cliff. That's what this is about. I want to do a special shout out to Professor Ali Brashears. I hope you all saw the announcement CUNY Central put out, I guess Monday, June 1st, right? Because it's Pride Month. Because on April 14th, the CUNY Board of Trustees approved LaGuardia's proposal to create the first ever LGBTQIA+ institute in CUNY at LaGuardia Community College. And this is an initiative that Ali, that Dr. Brashears, professor of biology, had worked on for a number of years with help from our chief of staff, Nayeli Valencia-Torrent, and it came to fruition with the trustees' approval. What is it? It means that here at LaGuardia, and we're hiring a director for it this fall, and under Ali's leadership, we are institutionalizing or formalizing work that had been done on a voluntary basis by Ali, really, and others, that used to be known as the LGBTQI+ Consortium. And that was an effort to reach out to CUNY campuses across the system and bring them into a consortium to coordinate programming for LGBTQ students, faculty, staff in the schools that participated. And in that process, we got funding from the New York City Council. So we were doing these grants that we would push out to the campuses. And Ali built all of this over many years, but it was a volunteer thing. And she got to the point where she said, we have to formalize this and do a plan and a proposal and have the trustees endorse it. Because an institute is complicated in CUNY. An institute is a multi-campus organization. It's not a center, which is one campus. And so what the trustees just did, really, the way I see it, on the 14th of April, was they designated LaGuardia as the center in CUNY for LGBTQI+ programming and support. And so, I'm looking for Ali. She didn't know I was going to embarrass her with this today. So Ali led this. Ali got this done. Nayeli and others played a big, big role. But I want to make that clear that in our view, it's not enough that we do everything we can to make LaGuardia an inclusive environment. No, in this case, we're serving the system. And we are now the center of support for all of CUNY for LGBTQIA+ programming across 26 institutions. We're the center for this kind of work around inclusivity and this sort of programming in the largest public university system, urban system in the country. This institute is a really, really great thing, not just for LaGuardia, but because by definition, we're required to serve other institutions. That's what I mean by it memorializes it, and it formalizes it, and yes, it's funded by the New York City Council. So hats off to Ali, and happy Pride. All right, now I really am done. It wasn't that this was so long. It's that we got off to a late start. That was the coffee, the donuts. Thank you for your patience. And you know, it was hard because you all want me to cut this. John's like, why didn't you cut them? Everyone has the parts that they're interested in. It's so hard. I got to do a better job editing. I agree. But it's such good news. I can't not share it. You know, I love to share it, and I think you all know me by now. There's nothing I'd rather do than talk about LaGuardia. Do save the date. Our Pride event is coming up today. We have a lot of stuff going on today. The good thing is beautiful weather out there, because today's also Undergraduate Research Day. And you're going to see me all over campus today. Music program showcase. Look at all these things happening today. Our Gardner Fellows Student Showcase, that's happening almost, very soon. And then I hope you'll join me and Allie and many others at Queen's Pride Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. That's really fun. Go there. It's a big event every year. Queen's Pride's the first of the 5 boroughs to go. Launch is always the first Sunday in June. Commencement, of course, June 18th. You know that. Be there. See you all there. And don't forget, thanks to LPAC and the leadership of Andrew Ronan, we are hosting World Cup watch parties, and ours in particular, the final of the World Cup, Sunday, June 19th, right on the Greenway with these big, gigantic screens and lots of fun and big World Cup finals celebration. So that'll be happening, something we're doing with the whole Long Island City community at noon on July 19th. Anyway, thanks again for your patience, and have a wonderful day and a great rest of the semester. See you at commencement.